Good evening, peaceful souls. Welcome to Zen Lotus Garden, your sanctuary for tranquil wisdom and gentle rest. I'm so grateful you've chosen to spend these quiet moments with me, allowing these ancient stories to guide you toward inner peace. If these tales of wisdom bring you comfort, if they help quiet your mind and soothe your spirit, please show your support by hitting the like button and subscribing to our channel. Your likes and subscriptions help these peaceful stories reach other souls who are seeking the same gentle refuge from the world's noise. Every subscription is like planting a seed in our garden of tranquility, helping it grow and flourish for all who need this sacred space. Tonight, we continue our journey through the timeless wisdom of the East, where every story is a stepping stone toward deeper understanding and restful sleep. So, settle in, breathe deeply, and let us walk together through gardens of peace and pools of ancient wisdom. As you continue along the gentle path, your footsteps naturally slow, matching the unhurried rhythm of this sacred space. The garden seems to breathe around you, each element pulsing with quiet life and ancient wisdom. Ahead, through a grove of carefully tended pines, you glimpse a figure moving with deliberate grace among the stones and carefully raked patterns of sand. This is the gardener, an elderly man whose presence seems as natural and enduring as the mountains themselves. His movements are neither hurried nor hesitant, but flow with the same effortless precision as water finding its course down a hillside. He wears simple robes faded to the color of morning mist, and his feet are bare against the earth he tends with such devotion. Watch him as he works. In his weathered hands, he holds a simple bamboo rake, its tines worn smooth by countless hours of patient use. He draws it through the white sand in long flowing strokes, creating patterns that seem to emerge naturally from the landscape itself. Each line he creates is both deliberate and spontaneous, following an inner rhythm that speaks of years spent in communion with this place. The gardener pauses in his work and notices your presence. His eyes, bright with the clarity that comes from a lifetime of mindful attention, meet yours with gentle warmth. There is no surprise in his gaze, no interruption in his peace. It is as if he has been expecting you, as if every visitor to this garden is simply another note in the eternal song he tends. "Welcome, friend," he says, his voice soft as the whisper of wind through bamboo. "You have come seeking something, though perhaps you are not yet certain what it is. This is the way of all who find themselves in this garden. We arrive thinking we know our destination, only to discover that the journey itself is the teaching." He sets down his rake and gestures to a smooth stone beside the sand garden. "Please, sit with me for a moment. Let me share with you what this simple work has taught me over the many seasons I have tended this place." As you settle onto the stone, you notice how perfectly it fits your body, as if it has been waiting for you. The gardener returns to his raking, but now his movements become a meditation. You can witness each stroke a lesson in presence and patience. "When I first came to this garden," he begins, his voice blending with the soft sound of bamboo on sand, "I believed that my task was to create beauty. I would spend hours arranging stones, adjusting the patterns in the sand, trimming every branch to what I thought was perfection. I worked with great effort and much frustration, for the garden never seemed to match the image I held in my mind." A gentle smile crosses his weathered face as he continues his work. One morning, after a particularly difficult night of wind and rain, I came to find my carefully crafted patterns completely disturbed. The sand was scattered, leaves had fallen across the pristine lines, and several stones had shifted from their appointed places. I felt anger rise in my chest, all my work undone by forces beyond my control. The gardener pauses, letting his words settle like seeds in fertile soil. But as I stood there in my frustration, something shifted in my understanding. I realized that I had been fighting against the very nature I sought to honor. The wind, the rain, the falling leaves, these were not destroyers of beauty, but participants in its creation. The garden was not mine to control, but mine to tend in partnership with all the forces of life. He draws a particularly graceful curve in the sand, and you see how it seems to echo the shape of the distant hills. From that day forward, I learned to work with the garden rather than upon it. When the wind scattered my patterns, I would study the new designs it created and find inspiration in its artistry. When leaves fell, I would observe how they chose their resting places and learn from their wisdom about letting go. The gardener's movements become even more fluid as he speaks, each stroke of the rake a prayer, each pattern a poem written in sand and silence. This is the first teaching of the garden, that true beauty arises not from our efforts to impose order, but from our willingness to participate in the natural harmony that already exists. We do not create peace, we simply remove the obstacles that prevent us from recognizing the peace that is always present. A small bird lands at the edge of the sand garden, and the gardener pauses his work to watch it. The bird pecks at something in the sand, creating tiny disruptions in the perfect patterns. Rather than shooing it away, the gardener observes with delight, as if the bird's presence adds exactly what the garden needed. "See how this little friend teaches us," he says softly. "It does not ask permission to be part of the garden's beauty. It simply is fully and completely in this moment." This is the second teaching, that our true nature, like that of the bird, is already perfect. We need not strive to become something other than what we are. We need only to be present fully and authentically in each moment as it unfolds. The bird flies away, leaving tiny marks in the sand that somehow enhance rather than mar the garden's beauty. The gardener continues his work, incorporating the bird's small contributions into his flowing patterns. Many people come to this garden seeking answers to great questions. He continues. They want to know the meaning of life, the secret of happiness, the path to enlightenment. But the garden teaches us that the greatest wisdom is often found in the simplest truths. The meaning of life is to live it fully. The secret of happiness is to find joy in what is, rather than longing for what might be. The path to enlightenment is simpler to wake up to the miracle of this present moment. As he speaks, you notice how the patterns in the sand seem to shift and change in the light, creating new designs with each passing cloud, each change in the angle of the sun. What appeared static and fixed reveals itself to be dynamic and alive, constantly transforming while maintaining its essential harmony. This sand garden, the gardener explains, is raked smooth each day, only to be disturbed by wind rain and the passage of visitors. Some might see this as futile work, but I have learned to find profound meaning in this daily practice. Each morning I begin again, not because yesterday's work was worthless, but because beginning again is the very essence of life itself. He completes a section of the garden and steps back to admire his work. but his admiration is free from attachment. You sense that he could walk away right now and feel no regret if the wind immediately scattered every line he had drawn. The third teaching of the garden is about impermanence. He says, reading your thoughts. Everything changes, the patterns in the sand, the seasons, our own bodies and minds. When we resist this truth, we suffer. When we embrace it, we find freedom. The beauty of this moment is made more precious by the knowledge that it will not last forever. A gentle breeze stirs the air, and indeed, some of the finest sand begins to shift, softening the edges of the patterns. The gardener watches this with the same peaceful attention he brought to creating the patterns in the first place. I have learned that the heart, like this garden, requires daily tending. He continues, each morning we must rake away the debris of yesterday's worries, smooth out the rough places left by old hurts, and create space for new beauty to emerge. This is not a task we complete once and then forget, but a practice we return to again and again with patience and love. The gardener sets down his rake and turns to face you fully. But perhaps the most important teaching of all is this: the garden we tend most carefully is not made of sand and stone, but of thoughts and intentions, words and actions. Every moment offers us the opportunity to cultivate kindness, to plant seeds of compassion, to water the ground of understanding with our attention. He gestures to the patterns in the sand, now subtly different from when he began, touched by wind and light and the passage of time. See how beautiful imperfection can be. See how the garden's true beauty lies not in any fixed form, but in its constant willingness to change, to adapt, to begin again. As you sit in the peaceful silence that follows his words, you begin to understand that this simple man with his simple tools has been sharing profound truths about the nature of existence itself. The garden around you seems to pulse with new meaning, each element a teacher, each moment a lesson in the art of living with grace. The gardener picks up his rake once more and returns to his work, but now you see it differently. This is not mere maintenance, but meditation in motion. This is not just the tending of a garden, but the cultivation of wisdom itself. Remember, he says softly as you prepare to continue your journey. You carry this garden with you wherever you go. In every moment you have the opportunity to tend the landscape of your own heart with the same patience and love you have witnessed here. When life disturbs your inner patterns, do not despair. Simply pick up your rake of awareness and begin again, knowing that each beginning is a gift, each moment a chance to create beauty from whatever materials life provides. With these words echoing in your heart like the soft sound of bamboo on sand, you rise from the stone and bow gratefully to the wise gardener. He returns your bow with a smile that seems to contain all the peace of the garden itself, then turns back to his eternal work of beginning again. As you walk away, you carry with you the image of his patient hands, the sound of his gentle wisdom, and the profound understanding that true peace grows not from achieving perfection, but from embracing the beautiful imperfection of each moment as it unfolds. The path leads you away from the wise gardener and his sand meditation, winding gently through a landscape that seems to shift and breathe with each step you take. The stones beneath your feet are smooth and warm, polished by countless seasons and the passage of many seekers like yourself. As you walk, the gardener's words echo softly in your mind, settling into your consciousness like seeds finding fertile ground. The air grows cooler as you approach a grove that stands apart from the rest of the garden. Here, towering bamboo stalks rise like living pillars, creating a natural cathedral of green and gold. The grove seems to exist in its own pocket of time, where the light filters through in gentle shafts, painting everything in soft, ethereal hues that shift and dance with the slightest movement of the stalks above. As you enter this sacred grove, the first thing you notice is the sound, or rather, the symphony of sounds that bamboo creates when it communes with the wind. It is not a single voice, but a chorus of whispers, each stalk contributing its own note to a melody that has been playing for centuries. Some stalks produce deep, resonant tones as they sway, while others offer higher, more delicate notes that dance above the bass line like silver bells in a gentle breeze. The bamboo here is ancient, some stalks reaching heights that disappear into the canopy above. Their surfaces are smooth and cool to the touch, marked with the subtle rings and patterns that tell the story of their growth. Each ring represents a season of patience, a year of reaching toward the light while remaining firmly rooted in the earth below. Run your hand along one of these stalks and feel the wisdom contained in its simple, elegant form. Between the bamboo stalks, the ground is carpeted with fallen leaves that have turned the color of burnished gold. They rustle softly underfoot, creating a gentle percussion that accompanies the bamboo's whispered song. The leaves have fallen not in death, but in the natural rhythm of renewal, making space for new growth while enriching the soil with their quiet sacrifice. As you move deeper into the grove, you notice how the bamboo teaches through its very being. Watch how the stalks move in the wind. They do not resist the force that pushes against them, nor do they break under pressure. Instead, they bend with fluid grace, swaying sometimes to dramatic angles that would snap a rigid tree, yet always returning to their center when the wind passes. This is the bamboo's first teaching, the wisdom of flexibility. In a world that often values strength as rigidity and power as resistance, the bamboo offers a different model. True strength, it whispers, lies not in the ability to remain unmoved, but in the capacity to bend without breaking, to yield without surrendering one's essential nature. Sit for a moment on a fallen log that has been naturally sculpted into a perfect seat by time and weather. From here you can observe the grove's gentle choreography as the wind moves through it in waves. The bamboo responds like a chorus of dancers, each stalk moving in harmony with its neighbors, creating patterns of movement that are both synchronized and spontaneous. As you watch, you begin to understand that the bamboo's flexibility is not weakness, but wisdom. When storms come, and they do come to every life, the bamboo does not waste energy fighting against forces beyond its control. Instead, it conserves its strength by bending, by finding the path of least resistance while maintaining its integrity. The storm passes, as all storms do, and the bamboo returns to its natural state unmarked by the struggle. A gentle breeze stirs the grove now, and you can hear the bamboo's whispered conversation more clearly. It speaks in a language older than words, a communication that bypasses the mind and speaks directly to the heart. Listen closely and you might hear what it is saying. Flexibility is not about having no boundaries. The bamboo whispers, but about knowing which boundaries are essential and which are merely habits. The roots that anchor us to our deepest values, these we never compromise. But the rigid expectations, the fixed ideas about how life should unfold, the stubborn insistence that things be other than they are, these we can release like leaves falling in their season. The wind grows slightly stronger and the bamboo's dance becomes more pronounced. Some stalks lean so far they nearly touch the ground, yet they do not break. In their graceful yielding, you see a profound teaching about resilience. The bamboo shows you that true resilience is not about being so strong that nothing can affect you, but about being so flexible that you can adapt to whatever comes while maintaining your essential nature. See how we bend but do not break. The bamboo continues its whispered teaching. This is because we are hollow at our center. What others might see as emptiness, we know as spaciousness. This hollow center is not a weakness, but our greatest strength. It allows us to be flexible, to move with the wind rather than against it. In your own life, cultivate this inner spaciousness. Make room for uncertainty, for change, for the unexpected gifts that come disguised as challenges. As you sit in contemplation, a small bird lands on one of the swaying stalks. The bamboo bends gently under the bird's weight, accommodating this new presence without resistance. The bird rides the gentle motion like a sailor, comfortable with the sea's rhythm, and when it flies away, the bamboo returns to its natural sway, unchanged by the encounter, yet having gracefully served as a temporary perch. This simple interaction contains another layer of the bamboo's teaching. Life constantly presents us with unexpected visitors, new responsibilities, sudden changes, uninvited challenges. The bamboo shows us how to receive these visitors with grace, neither rejecting them outright nor being permanently altered by their presence. We can accommodate what comes while maintaining our center, offering support when needed while returning to our natural state when the moment passes. The light in the grove shifts as clouds move across the sky, and the bamboo's shadows dance across the golden carpet of leaves. In this play of light and shadow, you see another teaching. The bamboo does not resist the darkness any more than it clings to the light. It accepts both as natural parts of the day's rhythm, finding beauty in the interplay between illumination and shadow. Learn from us the art of non-resistance. The bamboo whispers as another gentle breeze moves through the grove. Resistance creates tension, and tension creates suffering. When we fight against what is, we exhaust ourselves in futile struggle. But when we learn to move with the currents of life, we discover that even difficult experiences can be navigated with grace. You notice how the bamboos grove creates its own microclimate. The air here is cooler and more humid than in the open garden, creating perfect conditions for the delicate ferns and mosses that grow at the bamboo's base. The grove demonstrates how flexibility and accommodation create environments where many forms of life can flourish. When we learn to bend rather than break, we not only survive our own challenges, but create space for others to thrive as well. A deeper gust of wind moves through the grove, and the bamboo's song grows louder, more complex. The stalks lean and sway in an intricate dance, some bending nearly to the ground while others maintain more upright positions. Yet there is no competition among them, no judgment about who bends more or less. Each stalk responds according to its own nature, its own position, its own relationship with the wind. This is perhaps our most important teaching. The bamboo whispers urgently as the wind intensifies. There is no single right way to bend, no perfect formula for flexibility. Each of us must find our own way of yielding to life's pressures while maintaining our integrity. What matters is not how far you bend, but that you remain connected to your roots, that you remember your essential nature even as you adapt to changing circumstances. The wind begins to calm, and the bamboo's dance slows to its gentle hypnotic sway. In the settling quiet, you feel a deep peace descending, a sense of having learned something profound, not through words, but through direct experience. The bamboo has taught you through its very being, demonstrating rather than explaining the art of graceful adaptation. As you prepare to leave the grove, you notice one final teaching in the way the bamboo stalks support each other. Though each grows individually, they create a community, their roots intertwining beneath the soil, their canopy forming a protective shelter for all who dwell within. The bamboo shows you that true flexibility includes the wisdom of interdependence. We bend not only as individuals, but as part of a larger whole, supporting and supported by the community of life around us. You rise from your seat on the fallen log, feeling somehow more supple, more adaptable than when you entered the grove. The bamboo's whispered teachings have settled into your bones, becoming part of your understanding in a way that goes beyond intellectual knowledge. You bow to the grove in gratitude, and the bamboo seems to bow back, its gentle, swaying a benediction that follows you as you continue on your path. As you leave the whispering bamboo behind you, carry with you its essential teaching that true strength lies not in rigidity, but in flexibility, not in resistance, but in graceful adaptation. Like the bamboo, you can learn to bend without breaking, to yield, without surrendering your essential nature, to dance with life's winds rather than fighting against them. The path ahead curves gently, leading you toward new discoveries in this garden of wisdom. But you walk now with a different gait, more fluid and responsive, having learned from the bamboo the art of moving through life with grace, resilience, and the quiet confidence that comes from knowing you can bend without breaking, adapt without losing yourself, and find strength in the very flexibility that others might mistake for weakness. The path winds away from the whispering bamboo grove, carrying you through a gentle transition of landscape that seems to mirror the journey of your own deepening awareness. The bamboo's teachings of flexibility and grace still resonate in your body, making each step feel more fluid, more connected to the earth beneath your feet. The garden continues to unfold its wisdom gradually, like a scroll being unrolled by patient hands, revealing each teaching at precisely the moment you are ready to receive it. As you walk, the sounds of the grove fade into memory, replaced by a deeper, more profound silence. This is not the empty silence of absence, but the full silence of presence, the kind of quiet that holds infinite possibility within its depths. Your footsteps on the stone path seem softer now, as if the very air has become more receptive, more welcoming to your passage through this sacred space. The path curves around a small hill crowned with ancient pine trees, their gnarled branches reaching toward the sky like the arms of wise elders in prayer. As you round this gentle curve, a new vista opens before you, and your breath catches in quiet wonder. Ahead lies a pond of such perfect stillness that it seems less like water than like a mirror made of liquid light, reflecting the sky so completely that for a moment you cannot tell where earth ends and heaven begins. The pond is not large, perhaps 30 feet across, but its presence fills the space with a sense of vastness that has nothing to do with physical dimensions. The water is so clear and still that it seems to hold the entire universe within its depths. Every cloud that passes overhead, every bird that flies across the sky, every leaf that hangs from the surrounding trees is captured in perfect reflection, creating a world below that mirrors the world above, with breathtaking precision. You approach the pond's edge, slowly drawn by its magnetic stillness. The border is lined with smooth stones, worn round by countless seasons of rain and sun, each one placed with the same thoughtful intention you witnessed in the gardener's work. Between the stones, soft moss grows in emerald cushions, creating a natural carpet that invites you to sit and contemplate the water's perfect mirror. As you settle onto this natural seat, you notice how the pond seems to exist in its own dimension of time. While the rest of the garden moves with the gentle rhythms of wind and growth, the pond remains utterly motionless, as if it has discovered the secret of existing in the eternal now. The surface is so still that not even the faintest ripple disturbs its perfect reflection of the sky above. In this profound stillness, you begin to understand why the pond has been placed here in this particular spot along the garden's path. After the bamboo's teaching about flexibility and movement, the pond offers its own wisdom about the power of stillness, the strength that comes from perfect calm, the clarity that emerges when the mind, like water, becomes completely still. The reflection in the pond is so perfect that you find yourself questioning which is real, the sky above or its image below. Clouds drift across both realms with equal reality. Birds fly through both dimensions with equal grace. The pond teaches its first lesson through this perfect mirroring. When the mind becomes completely still, it reflects reality without distortion, showing things exactly as they are, rather than as we wish them to be, or fear they might become. As you gaze into the water's depths, you notice that the pond is not shallow, despite its crystal clarity. The bottom disappears into mysterious depths that seem to hold secrets older than the garden itself. Yet, this depth does not make the water murky or unclear. Instead, the pond demonstrates that true clarity can coexist with profound depth, that stillness does not require superficiality, that peace does not demand the absence of complexity. A small fish moves through the depths, its silver form gliding effortlessly through the water without disturbing the surface. Even this movement happening below the mirror-like surface does not create ripples above. The pond teaches you that it is possible to have activity and stillness simultaneously, that the depths of your being can be engaged and alive while the surface of your mind remains calm and clear. The sun shifts slightly in its course across the sky, and the quality of light on the pond changes subtly. What was silver becomes gold, what was blue becomes amber, yet the essential stillness remains unchanged. The pond shows you that external conditions may shift and change, but inner stillness once achieved remains constant regardless of circumstances. As you sit in contemplation, a gentle breeze stirs the air around you. You feel it on your skin, see it move the grasses at the pond's edge, watch it sway the branches of nearby trees. Yet the pond's surface remains undisturbed, as if it exists in a protected space where the winds of change cannot reach. This is not because the pond is isolated from the world, but because it has found a depth of stillness that external forces cannot penetrate. Then, as you watch in fascination, something extraordinary happens. High above, a single leaf releases its hold on a branch and begins its gentle descent toward the water. The leaf is perfect in its autumn coloring, gold and red and brown, blending in nature's own masterpiece. It falls, slowly turning and spinning in the air, catching the light as it dances its way downward. You watch transfixed as the leaf approaches the pond's perfect surface. Time seems to slow as the leaf draws closer to the water, and you find yourself holding your breath, wondering what will happen when this small piece of the changing world meets the pond's eternal stillness. The leaf touches the water with the gentlest possible contact, so light it seems like a whisper made visible. And in that moment of contact, something magical occurs. The touch of the leaf creates a single perfect circle of ripples that spreads outward from the point of contact. The ripples move in expanding rings, each one perfectly formed, each one carrying the energy of that single gentle touch across the entire surface of the pond. The perfect mirror is broken but not destroyed. Instead, it becomes something new, a living mandala of concentric circles that pulse outward with mathematical precision. The reflection of the sky fragments and reforms in countless tiny mirrors, each ripple creating its own small window into the heavens above. The stillness has been transformed but not lost. It has become dynamic, stillness, active peace movement within tranquility. As you watch the ripples spread, you understand that you are witnessing a profound teaching about the nature of action and consequence, cause and effect. The leaf, so small, so light, so seemingly insignificant, has transformed the entire pond with its gentle touch. Every part of the water's surface now carries the memory of that single contact, demonstrating how even the smallest action can have far-reaching effects. The ripples reach the edges of the pond and gently lap against the stones, then begin their journey back toward the center, creating new patterns as they intersect with ripples still moving outward. The pond becomes a living demonstration of how actions create reactions, how every choice we make sends waves through the fabric of existence, touching lives and circumstances we may never see or know about. But there is more to the teaching. As you continue to watch, you notice that the ripples gradually diminish in intensity. The waves become smaller, gentler, until finally, after what seems like both an eternity and an instant, the water returns to its original stillness. The pond's surface once again becomes a perfect mirror, reflecting the sky with the same flawless clarity it had before the leaf's arrival. The leaf itself now floats on the surface, no longer the agent of change, but simply another element in the pond's composition. It has become part of the reflection, part of the beauty, part of the pond's new reality. The water has accepted this addition without resistance, incorporating the leaf into its being while maintaining its essential nature. This is the pond's deepest teaching, that stillness is not the absence of change, but the capacity to remain centered regardless of what changes occur. True peace does not require a life free from disturbance, but the ability to return to calm after each disturbance passes. Like the pond, we can learn to be affected by life's events without being permanently disturbed by them. The pond also teaches about the nature of impermanence. The leaf that created such dramatic change will eventually sink, decay, and become part of the pond's ecosystem. The ripples that seemed so significant have already faded back into stillness. Everything changes, everything passes, yet the pond's essential nature, its capacity for stillness, its ability to reflect clearly, remains constant. As you sit beside the water, you begin to see your own life reflected in the pond's teachings. How many times have small events, a word spoken in anger, a moment of kindness, a decision made in haste, created ripples that spread far beyond your ability to track them? How many times have you been disturbed by life's falling leaves, forgetting that your essential nature, like the pond's, has the capacity to return to stillness? The pond invites you to consider the quality of your own inner waters. Are they clear enough to reflect reality accurately? Are they still enough to see deeply into the nature of things? Are they resilient enough to return to calm after each disturbance? The pond does not judge the current state of your inner waters, but simply offers itself as an example of what is possible when we cultivate the conditions for true stillness. A bird lands at the pond's edge to drink, creating tiny new ripples that spread in miniature versions of the leaf's grand gesture. The bird drinks its fill and flies away, leaving the water to return once again to its natural state. Even this small interaction becomes part of the pond's teaching that we can offer refreshment to others without being depleted, that we can be of service while maintaining our own center. The sun continues its journey across the sky, and the light on the pond shifts from gold to silver to the deep blue of approaching evening. Through all these changes, the pond maintains its essential character while adapting to each new condition. It teaches you that constancy does not mean rigidity, that staying true to your nature does not require resistance to change. As your time beside the pond draws to a close, you notice that your own breathing has synchronized with the water's rhythm, deep, slow, peaceful. Your mind has taken on some of the pond's stillness, your thoughts settling like sediment until only clarity remains. You have not just observed the pond's teaching, you have absorbed it, becoming more pond-like yourself. You rise slowly from your mossy seat, reluctant to leave this place of perfect peace. But as you prepare to continue your journey through the garden, you realize that you are taking the pond with you. Its stillness has become part of your own inner landscape, its capacity for clarity, a new resource you can draw upon whenever life's falling leaves threaten to disturb your peace. The pond offers one final teaching as you turn to go, a gentle reminder that stillness is not a destination, but a practice, not a permanent state, but a capacity that can be cultivated and returned to again and again. Like the pond, you can learn to welcome life's disturbances without being overwhelmed by them, to let the ripples of change move through you while maintaining your essential calm. With gratitude for this profound teaching, you bow to the still pond and its floating leaf, carrying their wisdom forward as you continue deeper into the garden's embrace, knowing that within you now lies a place of perfect stillness that no external storm can permanently disturb. As you leave the still pond behind, carrying its profound teaching of inner calm like a precious gift, the garden path begins to wind upward along a gentle slope. The stones beneath your feet are worn smooth by countless pilgrims who have walked this way before you, each one seeking their own understanding, their own moment of illumination. The air grows cooler as you climb, carrying with it the scent of pine and the subtle fragrance of night-blooming jasmine that grows wild in the shadows. The light around you is beginning to change, taking on the golden quality of late afternoon that photographers and poets have long celebrated. Shadows grow longer, more defined, creating pockets of mystery between the carefully placed stones and ancient trees. This is the time of day when the garden reveals different aspects of its beauty, when the interplay between light and shadow becomes a teaching in itself. As you round a bend in the path, you notice something glowing softly in the distance, a warm, steady light that seems to beckon you forward. Unlike the harsh glare of electric illumination, this light has a quality of gentleness, of invitation, rather than demand. It draws you not with urgency, but with the quiet magnetism of something that has waited patiently for your arrival. The path leads you through a grove of ancient maples, their leaves just beginning to show the first hints of autumn's transformation. Here and there, a branch displays a single red leaf among the green, like a calligraphy brush, stroke on nature's scroll. The trees seem to lean inward slightly, creating a natural archway that frames your approach to the source of the mysterious light. As you emerge from the maple grove, you find yourself in a small clearing where the light's source is revealed, an ancient stone lantern standing solitary and serene beside the path. The lantern is a masterpiece of simple elegance, carved from a single piece of weathered granite that has taken on the soft grey colour of morning mist. Its form follows the traditional design passed down through generations, a square base supporting a cylindrical chamber topped with a gently sloping roof that curves upward at the corners like hands cupped in prayer. The lantern's surface bears the patina of countless seasons, with moss growing in the carved grooves and small lichens painting abstract patterns across the stone. These marks of age do not diminish its beauty, but enhance it, telling the story of its long vigil in this sacred place. The stone itself seems to glow with an inner warmth, as if it has absorbed decades of sunlight and is now releasing it, slowly, steadily, into the gathering dusk. Within the lantern's chamber, a flame burns with perfect steadiness. This is not the flickering, uncertain light of an ordinary candle, but something more enduring, a flame that seems to have been burning since the lantern was first placed here, immune to wind and weather, sustained by some source deeper than mere fuel. The light it casts is warm and golden, creating a circle of illumination that extends just far enough to encompass a small stone bench positioned at the perfect distance for contemplation. You approach the lantern, slowly drawn by its quiet presence and the sense of ancient wisdom it emanates. As you draw closer, you notice intricate carvings on its surface, symbols and characters that speak of the lantern's sacred purpose. Some depict lotus flowers in various stages of bloom, others show the endless knot of interconnection, and still others contain characters in an ancient script that seems to whisper of enlightenment and the path to understanding. Settling onto the stone bench, you find yourself at the perfect distance to appreciate the lantern's light without being overwhelmed by it. The bench itself has been worn smooth by countless visitors who have sat here before you, each one drawn by the same mysterious magnetism that brought you to this place. The stone retains a subtle warmth, as if it too has been touched by the lantern's enduring flame. In the growing twilight, the lantern's importance becomes even more apparent. As the natural light of day begins to fade, the stone lantern's glow becomes a beacon, a fixed point of reference in the gathering darkness. It does not compete with the fading daylight, but waits patiently for its moment to serve, demonstrating the wisdom of knowing when to shine and when to remain quietly ready. As you sit in contemplation, a story begins to unfold in your mind, not heard with your ears, but received directly into your consciousness, as if the lantern itself is sharing its ancient memory. You see a young monk centuries ago struggling with doubt and confusion as he walked the path of spiritual seeking. Night after night, he would sit in meditation, wrestling with questions that seemed to have no answers, seeking a truth that remained frustratingly elusive. The monk's teacher, an old master whose wisdom was legendary throughout the land, watched his student struggle with compassionate concern. One evening, as the young monk sat in particularly deep despair, the master approached him carrying a simple oil lamp. Without a word, he placed the lamp beside his student and sat down next to him in the gathering darkness. "Master," the young monk said, his voice heavy with frustration, "I have meditated for months, studied the scriptures, followed every teaching you have given me, yet I feel no closer to enlightenment than when I began. The path seems shrouded in darkness, and I cannot find my way." The old master smiled gently and gestured toward the small flame flickering in the lamp beside them. "Tell me, young friend, how far does this light reach?" The monk looked at the lamp, its modest flame creating a circle of illumination, perhaps 10 feet in diameter. "Not very far, master. Perhaps enough to see a few steps ahead, no more." "And yet," the master continued, "is this light not sufficient for you to take the next step on your path?" The monk considered this. "Yes, master, I can see clearly enough to take one step." "Then take that step," the master said simply. "And when you have taken it, the light will reveal the step after that. You don't need to see the entire path illuminated at once. You need only enough light to see where you are and where your next step should be." The young monk sat in silence, absorbing this teaching. Gradually, he began to understand that his frustration came not from a lack of progress, but from his desire to see too far ahead, to have all the answers before he had fully lived the questions. "The lamp does not try to illuminate the entire world," the master continued. "It simply burns steadily, offering its light to whatever comes within its reach. In the same way, you do not need to achieve perfect enlightenment all at once. You need only to cultivate the steady flame of awareness within yourself, allowing it to illuminate each moment as it comes. As the story unfolds in your consciousness, you begin to understand why this particular lantern has been placed here at this point in your journey through the garden. After learning about flexibility from the bamboo and stillness from the pond, you are now being taught about the nature of guidance and the wisdom of taking life one step at a time. The lantern's flame burns with perfect consistency, neither flaring up in excitement nor dimming in despair. It demonstrates the quality of inner light that remains constant regardless of external circumstances. This is not the dramatic illumination of lightning that reveals everything in a single blinding flash, but the gentle, reliable light that allows for steady progress along the path. As you watch the flame, you notice how it seems to dance without actually moving, how it maintains its essential form while constantly flowing and changing. This paradox contains another teaching that constancy and change are not opposites, but partners in the dance of existence. The flame is always the same flame, yet it is never exactly the same from moment to moment. The lantern also teaches about service. It does not burn for its own sake, but to provide light for travelers on the path. Its purpose is fulfilled not in being seen, but in helping others see. In the same way, the wisdom we cultivate is not meant to be hoarded, but shared not to make us feel superior, but to help others find their way. A gentle breeze stirs the air around you, and you notice that the lantern's flame does not flicker. The stone chamber protects it from the wind while still allowing the light to shine forth. This design teaches about the importance of creating proper conditions for inner illumination, protecting our inner flame from the winds of distraction and negativity, while ensuring that its light can still reach those who need it. As the natural light continues to fade, the lantern's glow becomes more prominent, more necessary. You realize that this is often how wisdom works in our lives. It may seem small and insignificant during the bright, easy times, but It becomes invaluable when we find ourselves in darkness or uncertainty. The stone from which the lantern is carved speaks of endurance and permanence. Unlike a wooden lantern that might decay or a metal one that might rust, this stone lantern has weathered countless storm seasons and centuries. It teaches about the kind of inner light that can be cultivated, not the temporary enthusiasm that flares and dies, but the deep, abiding awareness that grows stronger with time and experience. You notice how the lantern's light creates a sense of sanctuary around itself. Within its glow, you feel safe, protected, able to rest and reflect. This is another aspect of its teaching, that when we cultivate our own inner light, we create spaces of peace and safety, not only for ourselves, but for others who may be struggling in their own darkness. The carvings on the lantern's surface become more visible in its own light, revealing layers of meaning that were hidden in the brighter light of day. Sometimes you realize we can only see certain truths when we stop relying on external illumination and learn to see by the light of our own understanding. As you sit in the lantern's gentle glow, you feel your own inner light beginning to respond, as if recognizing a kindred flame. The teaching is not just intellectual, but experiential. You are not merely learning about inner illumination, but actually experiencing it, feeling your own capacity for steady, gentle awareness beginning to strengthen and stabilize. The lantern teaches patience as well. It does not demand attention or insist on being noticed. It simply burns steadily, available to anyone who needs its light. In the same way, true wisdom does not force itself upon others, but remains quietly available, ready to help when help is needed. A night bird calls from somewhere in the darkness beyond the lantern's reach, and its song seems to harmonize with the silent music of the flame. You understand that the lantern is part of a larger symphony of guidance. The stars above the path beneath your feet, the wisdom of teachers and friends, the quiet voice of your own heart. Each source of light has its own role to play in helping travelers find their way. As your time with the stone lantern draws to a close, you feel a deep gratitude for its teaching. You have learned that you don't need to see the entire path ahead to take the next step. That steady inner light is more valuable than dramatic illumination, that true guidance comes not from external sources alone, but from the cultivation of your own inner flame. The lantern's light will continue to burn long after you have moved on, serving other travelers who will come this way in their own time of need. But you carry with you now the understanding that you too can be a source of light for others, that the gentle flame of awareness you have begun to cultivate can serve as a beacon for those who may be struggling in their own darkness. Rising from the stone bench, you bow deeply to the ancient lantern, honoring both its service and the teaching it has shared. As you prepare to continue your journey deeper into the garden, you notice that the path ahead is no longer completely dark. The lantern's light reveals just enough of the way forward for you to take your next step with confidence, trusting that each step will reveal the next, that the light you need will always be sufficient for the journey you are called to make. The path continues to wind gently through the garden, illuminated now by the soft glow of the stone lantern behind you and the emerging light of stars beginning to appear in the deepening sky above. Each step you take carries forward the accumulated wisdom of your journey, the gardener's patience, the bamboo's flexibility, the pond's stillness, and the lantern's steady guidance. These teachings have begun to weave themselves into the fabric of your being, creating a foundation of understanding that prepares you for the deeper mysteries that lie ahead. As you walk, the sound of moving water grows gradually stronger, different from the gentle whisper of the stream you encountered earlier. This is a more purposeful sound, the voice of water that knows its destination and moves toward it with quiet determination. The path curves around a cluster of ancient willows, their drooping branches creating natural curtains that part to reveal a scene of extraordinary beauty and profound teaching. Before you lies a stream wider than any you have yet encountered in the garden, its waters clear and deep, flowing with the unhurried grace of a master calligrapher drawing characters in the air. The stream bed is lined with smooth stones that have been polished by countless years of water's patient touch, creating a mosaic of grays and browns and subtle blues that shift and change as the water moves over them. But it is not the stream itself that captures your attention, beautiful though it is. Rather, it is the two beings who have made this place their home, each representing a different relationship with the water, each embodying a different approach to existence, yet both living in perfect harmony within the same environment. On the far bank, standing motionless in the shallows, is a crane of extraordinary grace and dignity. The bird is tall and elegant, its white feathers seeming to glow with their own inner light in the gathering dusk. Its long neck curves in a perfect S shape, and its dark eyes hold the depth of ancient wisdom. The crane stands so still it might be mistaken for a statue, if not for the subtle rise and fall of its breathing and the occasional almost imperceptible adjustment of its position. In the deeper waters near the center of the stream, a large carp moves with fluid grace through its liquid domain. The fish is magnificent, its scales catching and reflecting the last rays of sunlight like scattered coins of gold and silver. Unlike the crane's perfect stillness, the carp is in constant gentle motion, swimming in slow, meditative circles, occasionally rising to the surface to create small ripples before disappearing again into the depths. You settle onto a moss-covered boulder at the stream's edge, positioned perfectly to observe both creatures without disturbing their natural rhythms. As you watch, you begin to understand that you are witnessing something far more profound than simply two animals sharing a habitat. These beings embody complementary approaches to life, different ways of engaging with the same reality, each valid and necessary in its own way. The crane represents the path of patient observation, of waiting and watching, of being fully present in stillness. It has chosen a position where it can see both above and below the water's surface, maintaining awareness of multiple dimensions simultaneously. Its stillness is not passive, but intensely active, every sense alert, every muscle ready to respond when the moment for action arrives. The crane teaches that there is profound power in patient waiting, in choosing the perfect moment rather than acting from impulse or anxiety. Watch how the crane breathes, slow, deep, completely relaxed, yet utterly alert. Its breathing has synchronized with the rhythm of the stream itself, demonstrating a harmony between inner and outer worlds that comes only from deep practice and profound understanding. The crane has learned to be so still that it becomes part of the landscape, so present that it disappears into the moment itself. The carp, meanwhile, embodies the path of gentle, continuous movement, of flowing with life's currents while maintaining direction and purpose. Its swimming appears effortless, each movement perfectly calibrated to the water's flow each turn and dive, an expression of complete harmony with its environment. The carp teaches that there is wisdom in constant gentle engagement with life, in staying in motion while remaining centered and calm. Notice how the carp moves, never hurried, never struggling against the current, but always purposeful. It demonstrates the art of wuswei, the Taoist principle of effortless action, showing how we can be fully engaged with life while remaining relaxed and natural. The carp's movement is meditation in motion, a flowing dance that honors both the need for progress and the importance of grace. As you observe these two beings, you begin to see how their different approaches complement rather than contradict each other. The crane's stillness creates a stable point of reference in the ever-changing environment, while the carp's movement brings life and energy to the scene. Neither approach is superior to the other. Both are necessary expressions of the full spectrum of wise living. A small fish swims near the crane's feet, unaware of the potential danger. The crane notices you can see the slight shift in its attention, the subtle focusing of its gaze, but it does not strike. This is not the moment, not the right fish, not the appropriate action. The crane's restraint teaches about the wisdom of discernment, of knowing not just when to act, but when not to act, understanding that true power often lies in the choice to remain still. Meanwhile, the carp approaches a fallen leaf that has landed on the water's surface. It investigates gently, neither grasping nor rejecting, simply acknowledging the leaf's presence before continuing on its way. The carp teaches about engaging with life's offerings without attachment, exploring possibilities without becoming trapped by them. As the light continues to fade, both creatures adapt to the changing conditions without losing their essential nature. The crane's white feathers seem to gather and concentrate the remaining light, making it even more visible against the darkening landscape. The carp's movements become slightly slower, more deliberate, adjusting to the reduced visibility while maintaining its graceful flow through the water. This adaptation teaches about the importance of flexibility within consistency, how we can adjust to changing circumstances while remaining true to our fundamental nature. Both the crane and the carp demonstrate that wisdom lies not in rigid adherence to a single approach, but in the ability to modify our methods while maintaining our essential principles. A gentle breeze stirs the water's surface, creating small waves that lap against the crane's legs. The bird remains unmoved, demonstrating that external disturbances need not disrupt inner peace. The carp, however, uses the waves to its advantage, riding the small currents with even greater ease, showing how the same external conditions can be met with different but equally valid responses. You realize that these two beings are teaching you about the fundamental complementarity that exists throughout life. Masculine and feminine, active and receptive, doing and being, movement and stillness, all are necessary aspects of a complete existence. The crane and the carp show you that you need not choose between these approaches, but can learn to embody both as circumstances require. The crane suddenly moves not to strike at prey, but to adjust its position slightly as the water level changes with the evening's cooling air. Even this small movement is performed with perfect grace and economy, demonstrating that when action is necessary, it can be taken without losing the essential quality of stillness. The crane teaches that true stillness is not rigidity, but a dynamic balance that can accommodate necessary movement while maintaining inner calm. The carp, meanwhile, has begun to move in a different pattern, swimming closer to the surface as evening insects begin to appear above the water. Its movements remain graceful and unhurried, but they have adapted to the changing opportunities that twilight brings. The carp teaches about the importance of remaining responsive to life's rhythms while maintaining your own center and flow. As you watch these two masters of their respective arts, you begin to understand that they are not just sharing the same space, but actually supporting each other's existence. The crane's presence keeps certain predators away from the stream, creating a safer environment for the carp. The carp's movement through the water helps to oxygenate it and stir up nutrients that support the entire ecosystem, including the small fish that occasionally provide the crane with sustenance. This mutual support happens without conscious agreement or negotiation. It arises naturally from each being fully expressing its own nature while remaining aware of and responsive to the larger web of relationships in which it exists. The crane and the carp teach about the possibility of living in harmony with others, not by compromising our own nature, but by expressing it so authentically that it naturally contributes to the well-being of the whole. A small cloud passes over the emerging moon, and the quality of light on the water changes subtly. Both creatures acknowledge this change. The crane with a slight turn of its head, the carp with a momentary pause in its swimming, but neither is disturbed by it. They demonstrate the art of remaining aware of changing conditions while not being controlled by them. The stream itself seems to participate in this teaching, its voice changing slightly as the temperature drops and its flow adjusts to the evening's rhythm. The water speaks of constancy within change, of maintaining essential direction while adapting to countless variables. Like the crane and the carp, the stream embodies the wisdom of being both stable and flexible, both reliable and responsive. As your time with these two teachers draws to a close, you feel a deep appreciation for the profound simplicity of their teaching. They have shown you that there is no single right way to live, no one correct approach to existence. Instead, there is the crane's way and the carp's way and countless other ways, each valid when expressed with authenticity and awareness. You have learned that stillness and movement are not opposites, but partners, that observation and engagement can coexist, that patience and responsiveness can both be expressions of wisdom. The crane and the carp have taught you about the beauty of complementarity, the strength that comes from embracing rather than rejecting different approaches to life. Rising from your moss-covered seat, you bow to both teachers, to the crane standing in its perfect stillness, to the carp flowing in its endless dance. They acknowledge your gratitude in their own ways, the crane with the slightest inclination of its elegant head, the carp with a graceful spiral that brings it momentarily to the surface before it disappears again into the depths. As you prepare to continue your journey through the garden, you carry with you the understanding that you contain within yourself both the crane's capacity for patient stillness and the carp's gift for graceful movement. You need not choose between them, but can learn to express each as the moment requires, finding in their complementarity a completeness that neither could provide alone. The path ahead curves away from the stream, leading you toward new teachings and deeper understanding. But you walk now with a different kind of balance, having learned from the crane and the carp. That wisdom lies not in finding the one right way, but in developing the sensitivity to know which way is right for this moment, this situation, this particular dance between your inner nature and the ever-changing world around you. The path leads you away from the stream where the crane and carp continue their eternal dance of stillness and flow, carrying you deeper into the heart of the garden where the most profound teachings await. The night has fully settled, now transforming the garden into a realm of soft shadows and gentle mysteries. Stars have emerged in the clear sky above their ancient light, creating a celestial map that has guided seekers for millennia. The air is cool and sweet, carrying the fragrance of night-blooming flowers and the subtle scent of incense from some distant temple. As you walk, you notice that the path itself has begun to change. The carefully placed stones that have guided your steps throughout the garden gradually give way to a more natural surface, packed earth worn smooth by countless pilgrims who have walked this way before you. The transition is so gradual that you barely notice it at first, but eventually you realize that you are walking on ground that has been sanctified not by human design, but by the accumulated intention and devotion of all who have sought understanding along this ancient way. The landscape around you becomes more wild, more primal, as if you are approaching the source from which all the garden's carefully cultivated beauty springs. Ancient trees tower overhead, their branches forming a natural cathedral that seems to reach toward infinity. These are not the manicured specimens you encountered earlier, but wild giants that have grown according to their own inner wisdom, shaped by wind and weather into forms of startling beauty and power. In the distance, you begin to make out a structure unlike anything you have yet encountered in the garden. At first, it appears to be a simple wooden gate standing alone in a small clearing ahead. But as you draw closer, you realize that this is no ordinary entrance. The gate stands by itself with no walls extending from either side, no fence or barrier that it might logically be meant to open or close. It is simply a gate standing free in the open space, serving no apparent practical purpose, yet radiating a sense of profound significance. The gate itself is a masterpiece of simple elegance. Constructed from weathered wood that has taken on the silver-grey color of driftwood, it consists of 2 posts supporting a curved crossbeam in the traditional Tory style. The wood bears the marks of age and weather, small cracks that speak of countless seasons, a patina that tells of decades spent in communion with the elements. Yet, despite its obvious age, the gate stands strong and stable, as if it has found a way to exist beyond the normal cycles of decay and renewal. As you approach, you notice that characters have been carved into the crossbeam, ancient symbols that seem to shift and change in the starlight, sometimes appearing as recognizable words, sometimes dissolving into abstract patterns that speak directly to the heart rather than the mind. The carving is deep and precise, done by a master craftsman who understood that these symbols would need to endure not just the weathering of time, but the scrutiny of countless seekers searching for meaning. You pause before the gate, uncertain whether you should pass through it or around it. The opening it frames is no different from the space on either side, the same starlit clearing, the same ancient trees, the same path continuing beyond. Yet, something about the gate suggests that passing through it would be fundamentally different from walking around it, that the act of crossing this threshold would mark a significant transition in your journey. As you stand in contemplation, a figure emerges from the shadows beneath the trees. It is an old monk, his robes simple and worn, his face lined with the marks of a lifetime spent in deep contemplation. His eyes hold the clarity of mountain streams and the depth of ancient wells. He approaches the gate from the other side and stops directly across from you, the wooden frame standing between you like a bridge that is also a barrier. You have come far. The monk says, his voice soft, but carrying clearly across the space between you. You have learned much from the garden's teachers, but now you face the most challenging lesson of all. You look at the gate standing between you, then back at the monk's serene face. What is this place? You ask. What does this gate represent? The monk smiles, and in his smile you see both infinite compassion and a hint of the cosmic joke that lies at the heart of all spiritual seeking. This is the gate of no gate, he says simply. It is the entrance that is not an entrance, the barrier that is not a barrier, the threshold that exists only in the mind that believes in thresholds. You study the gate more carefully, trying to understand his words. But it is clearly here, you say. I can see it, touch it. How can it be a gate of no gate? The monk nods approvingly at your question. Yes, the wood is real. The craftsmanship is real. The symbols carved into its surface are real. But what makes it a gate? What gives it the power to separate this side from that side, to create the illusion that you are here and I am there, that passing through it would somehow change your fundamental nature? As he speaks, you begins to see what he means. The gate frames an opening, but the opening was already there before the gate was built. The space it defines was not created by the wooden structure, but merely highlighted by it. The gate draws attention to a passage that has always existed, will always exist, regardless of whether any physical marker acknowledges it. Many seekers come to this gate. The monk continues, and they stand where you stand now, wondering whether they are worthy to pass through, whether they have learned enough, practiced enough, purified themselves enough to cross this threshold. They see the gate as a test, a barrier to be overcome, a challenge to be met. He gestures to the space around the gate, the open clearing that extends in all directions. Others see the gate and immediately walk around it, thinking themselves clever for avoiding what they perceive as an obstacle. They believe they have found a shortcut, a way to bypass the challenge and reach their destination without facing the test. You look at the gate with new eyes, beginning to understand the profound teaching it embodies. But both approaches miss the point. You say slowly, "Exactly." The monk confirms, his eyes twinkling with delight at your growing understanding. The gate is not there to be passed through or avoided. It is there to be recognized for what it truly is, a construction of the mind, a symbol of all the barriers we create for ourselves, all the thresholds we imagine we must cross to reach some imagined state of enlightenment or peace. As his words sink in, you feel a shift in your perception. The gate begins to appear different, less solid, more transparent. You realize that you have been seeing it through the lens of your own assumptions about gates, about barriers, about the nature of spiritual progress itself. The truth, the monk says gently, is that there is nowhere to go and nothing to achieve. The peace you seek, the wisdom you pursue, the enlightenment you imagine lies beyond this gate. All of these are already present, already available, already yours. The gate exists only to help you realize that there was never any gate at all. You look at the wooden structure standing between you and the monk, and suddenly you see it with perfect clarity. It is simultaneously completely real and completely illusory, a physical object that points to a metaphysical truth, a barrier that exists only in the mind that believes in barriers. This is the great paradox of all spiritual seeking. The monk continues, "We embark on long journeys to reach what was never absent. We practice for years to achieve what we already possess. We seek to become what we have always been. The gate represents all the imaginary obstacles we place between ourselves and our own true nature. A gentle breeze stirs the air, and the gate creaks softly on its hinges, hinges that serve no functional purpose, since there is nothing for the gate to close against. The sound is both melancholy and humorous, like the sigh of someone who has just understood a joke that has been playing for centuries. So, what should I do, you ask? Should I pass through the gate or walk around it? Should I ignore it entirely?" The monk laughs a sound like water flowing over smooth stones. "You are still thinking in terms of doing, of action and choice. The gate of no gate is not about what you should do, but about what you should see. Look at the gate again, but this time look with the eyes of understanding rather than the eyes of seeking. You turn your attention back to the wooden structure, but now you see it differently. Instead of a barrier to be crossed or avoided, you see it as a teacher, a pointer, a finger pointing at the moon of truth. The gate is not the destination, but a signpost, not the answer, but a question that dissolves itself in the asking. The gate teaches us about the nature of all spiritual practices," the monk explains. "Meditation, prayer, study, service. All of these are like the gate. They are real and valuable in themselves, but their ultimate purpose is to help us realize that what we seek through them was never absent. They are means to an end, but the end is the recognition that there was never any distance between means and end. As you stand before the gate of no gate, you feel something shifting deep within your understanding. All the teachings you have received in the gardener's patience, the bamboo's flexibility, the pond's stillness, the lantern's guidance, the crane and carp's complementary wisdom suddenly reveal themselves as different facets of the same fundamental truth. Each was pointing to this moment of recognition, this understanding that the seeker and the sought are one. The gate also teaches us about the nature of problems and solutions. The monk continues, "We create problems in our minds and then exhaust ourselves seeking solutions. But what if the problem was never real in the first place? What if the very act of seeking a solution reinforces the illusion that there is a problem to be solved?" You nod, feeling the truth of his words resonating in your bones. How many times have you struggled with difficulties that existed primarily in your own thinking? How many barriers have you erected in your mind and then spent energy trying to overcome? This does not mean that practical problems don't exist. The monk clarifies, reading your thoughts. If you are hungry, you need food. If you are cold, you need warmth. But the deepest human sufferings, the sense of separation, the feeling of inadequacy, the fear of death, the search for meaning, these are like the gate. They appear solid and real, but they dissolve when seen clearly. A shooting star streaks across the sky above, and both you and the monk pause to watch its brief, brilliant passage. In that moment of shared wonder, you realize that there is no real separation between you and the monk, between this side of the gate and that side, between seeker and teacher, between question and answer. The shooting star does not ask permission to shine. The monk observes. It does not wonder if it is worthy to illuminate the darkness. It simply expresses its nature fully and completely burning bright in its moment of existence. This is the teaching of the gate of no gate, to recognize that you too are already shining, already complete, already home. As the star's light fades, you feel a profound peace settling over you. The gate stands before you as solid and real as ever, but you no longer see it as an obstacle or a test. You see it as a reminder, a teacher, a friend pointing you back to the truth of your own nature. So, the gate is both real and not real, you say, testing your understanding. Yes, the monk confirms. Like all the best teachers, it uses the relative to point to the absolute, the temporary, to reveal the eternal, the constructed to illuminate the natural. The gate exists in the world of form to point beyond form in the realm of time, to suggest the timeless. You take a step forward, then pause. The question of whether to pass through the gate or around it suddenly seems irrelevant. You realize that you have already passed through it simply by understanding its true nature. The crossing happened not in physical space, but in the space of consciousness, not through movement, but through recognition. There is no wrong way to approach the gate of no gate. The monk says, seeing your hesitation, you can walk through it, around it, or stand before it in contemplation. What matters is not the action, but the understanding that accompanies it. When you see clearly, every step is a step through the gate, every breath is a crossing of the threshold. With this understanding, you feel free to move naturally without calculation or strategy. You walk toward the gate, not because you must pass through it to reach some distant goal, but because it is simply the next step on the path. As you approach the threshold, you feel no sense of transition, no moment of crossing from one state to another. You are simply walking, simply being, simply present in the eternal, now that the gate represents. The monk bows as you pass through the opening, and you bow in return, recognizing in him not a separate being, but another expression of the same consciousness that looks out through your own eyes. The gate stands behind you now, but you carry its teaching forward, the understanding that all barriers exist only in the mind that believes in barriers, that all destinations are present in the very act of seeking them. As you rise from the cushions in the pavilion, feeling the profound peace that comes from shared silence and the integration of deep teachings, you notice that the garden around you has taken on an even more mystical quality. The night has deepened into that sacred hour when the veil between worlds grows thin, when the ordinary reveals its extraordinary nature, and when every step becomes a meditation in itself. The path that leads away from the pavilion is different from any you have encountered before in the garden. Here, the carefully placed stones that have guided your journey give way to something more ancient, more primal. The way forward is marked not by human design, but by the patient work of time itself, a pathway of moss and stone that has been worn smooth by countless seasons of rain and sun, by the passage of pilgrims whose footsteps have blessed this ground for generations beyond counting. Each stone along this path tells a story written in the language of weathering and wear. Some are large and stable, offering secure footing and a sense of permanence. Others are smaller, requiring careful attention and mindful placement of each step. The moss that grows between and around them is thick and soft, creating a carpet of emerald green that seems to glow with its own inner light in the starlit darkness. As you take your first steps onto this ancient way, you immediately notice how different it feels from walking on the garden's more formal paths. Here, There is no single correct way to proceed. The stones are placed irregularly, following no geometric pattern, but arranged according to the natural contours of the land and the organic wisdom of those who first walked this way. Some steps require you to stretch slightly, others to take smaller, more careful movements. The path itself becomes a teacher, instructing you in the art of adaptation, of finding your own rhythm, of being present to each moment of the journey. The moss beneath your feet is surprisingly resilient, cushioning each step while providing just enough texture to prevent slipping. As you walk, you begin to understand that this humble plant embodies profound teachings about persistence and humility. Moss grows slowly, almost imperceptibly, yet over time it can transform entire landscapes. It thrives in conditions that would challenge other plants in shade on stone, in places where soil is scarce. It asks for little yet gives much, creating beauty and softness in the harshest environments. The path winds through a grove of ancient trees whose trunks are so massive that several people holding hands could not encircle them. These giants have stood here for centuries, perhaps millennia, their roots extending deep into the earth, their branches reaching toward the stars. They have witnessed countless pilgrims pass beneath their canopy, each seeker carrying their own questions, their own hopes, their own burdens and revelations. As you walk among these elder trees, you feel their presence like a blessing. They radiate a quality of deep peace that comes only from having weathered countless storms, from having learned the secret of bending without breaking, of growing slowly and steadily toward the light while remaining firmly rooted in the earth. Their very existence is a teaching about patience, about the power of gradual transformation, about the way true wisdom accumulates, not through dramatic revelations, but through the quiet accumulation of seasons lived with awareness and grace. The moss on the path seems to respond to your footsteps, not by being damaged, but by releasing a subtle fragrance, earthy and clean, like the scent of rain on forest soil. This fragrance carries with it memories of countless seasons of spring rains that brought new growth of autumn leaves that fell and decomposed to enrich the soil of winter, snows that blanketed the earth in protective silence of summer suns that warmed the stones and encouraged the moss to spread its gentle carpet ever wider. Between the stones, small wild flowers have found purchase in the moss, their delicate blooms adding touches of color to the green tapestry. These flowers are not the cultivated specimens you encountered in other parts of the garden, but wild things that have chosen their own places to grow. They speak of the beauty that emerges when life is allowed to follow its own natural impulses, when growth happens not according to human design, but according to the deeper patterns that govern all existence. As you continue along the moss and stone path, you begin to notice how it teaches a different kind of walking meditation than you have experienced before. On the garden's formal paths, the rhythm was steady and predictable, allowing the mind to settle into a regular pattern. Here, each step requires presence and attention. The irregular spacing of the stones, the varying heights and textures, the need to navigate around roots and over small rises in the path, all of these elements conspire to keep you fully present, fully engaged with the immediate reality of this step, this breath, this moment. This is the path's first teaching, that mindfulness is not achieved by eliminating challenges, but by meeting them with full awareness. The moss and stone way does not try to make walking easy, but rather makes it conscious. Each step becomes an opportunity to practice balance, both physical and mental. Each irregularity in the path becomes a chance to develop flexibility and responsiveness. You come to a place where the path crosses a small stream, the water flowing so quietly that you hear it only when you stop to listen. Here the stones are placed as stepping stones across the water, each one worn smooth by countless crossings. The moss grows right to the water's edge, creating a soft border between the solid path and the flowing stream. As you prepare to cross, you notice how the stepping stones require a different kind of trust than walking on solid ground. Each stone must bear your full weight for a moment, and you must commit completely to each step before taking the next. There is no possibility of hesitation, no option to partially commit. The stream teaches about the necessity of full presence, of complete engagement with each moment of transition. The water flowing beneath the stones speaks its own quiet wisdom. It has no agenda other than to flow, no destination other than the next moment of its journey. It moves around obstacles without resistance, finding the path of least resistance while maintaining its essential direction. The stream demonstrates the art of purposeful yielding, of achieving goals, not through force, but through persistent, gentle movement in harmony with natural laws. On the far side of the stream, the path continues through a section where the stones are particularly ancient, their surfaces worn so smooth that they seem almost polished. Here the moss has grown thick and lush, creating a carpet so soft that walking on it feels like moving across a living cloud. The contrast between the hardness of the stone and the softness of the moss creates a perfect metaphor for the balance between strength and gentleness that characterizes true wisdom. As you walk this softest section of the path, you feel your entire body relaxing, your breathing becoming deeper and more natural. The moss seems to absorb not just the sound of your footsteps, but also the tensions and worries that you may still be carrying. Each step is like a gentle massage, a reminder that the earth itself is a source of healing and comfort for those who approach it with respect and openness. The path begins to curve upward, now following the natural contours of a small hill. The stones here are larger, more stable, as if the path makers understood that the effort of climbing requires more secure footing. Yet, the moss continues to grow between them, softening the edges and creating a sense of organic unity between the human-placed stones and the natural landscape. As you climb, you notice how the elevation changes your perspective on the garden. From this higher vantage point, you can see the interconnectedness of all the places you have visited. The sand garden, the bamboo grove, the still pond, the stone lantern, the stream with its crane and carp, the gate of no gate, the pavilion where you shared silent communion with fellow seekers. All of these are visible from here, revealed as parts of a single integrated whole. This elevated perspective brings with it a new understanding. The journey through the garden has not been a linear progression from ignorance to knowledge, from confusion to clarity. Instead, it has been a spiral path, each teaching building upon and deepening the others, each experience adding another layer to your understanding while revealing new depths in what you thought you already knew. The moss and stone path teaches about the nature of spiritual progress itself. Like the irregular placement of the stone's growth does not happen in predictable increments. Sometimes we take large steps forward, sometimes small ones. Sometimes we must stretch to reach the next level of understanding. Sometimes we must move carefully and slowly, The path accommodates all of these different rhythms, all of these various paces without judgment or pressure. Near the top of the hill, you come to a place where the path widens into a small clearing. Here, a single stone sits in the center, larger than the others, worn smooth by weather and time. This stone seems to invite rest, to offer itself as a seat for contemplation. The moss around it is particularly thick and soft, creating a natural cushion for anyone who chooses to pause here. As you settle onto this ancient seat, you feel the accumulated wisdom of all who have rested here before you. The stone holds the memory of countless moments of reflection, countless insights gained and integrated. Countless hearts opened to the profound simplicity of just being present in this moment, in this place, on this earth. From this elevated position, with the soft moss beneath you and the star-filled sky above you, feel a profound sense of completion. Not because the journey is over, indeed, you sense that in many ways it is just beginning, but because you have arrived at a place of understanding that makes every moment complete in itself. The moss and stone path has taught you that the way itself is the destination, that each step is both a means and an end, that the journey and the goal are one. The moss continues its patient work of growing, of softening, of creating beauty in the spaces between the stones. It does not hurry or worry about its progress. It simply grows one tiny increment at a time, trusting in the process of gradual transformation. In its humble persistence, you see a model for your own spiritual development, not dramatic breakthroughs, but steady, patient cultivation of awareness, compassion, and wisdom. The stones beneath the moss have their own teaching to offer. They speak of endurance, of the capacity to remain stable and supportive, even as everything around them changes. They have been shaped by countless seasons, worn smooth by wind and rain and the passage of many feet. Yet they remain essentially themselves while adapting to their role as supporters of the path. Together, the moss and stone create something neither could achieve alone, a path that is both stable and soft, both enduring and alive, both practical and beautiful. They demonstrate the power of cooperation of different elements working together to create something greater than the sum of their parts. As you sit in contemplation on the ancient stone, you realize that you too are part of this ongoing creation. Your footsteps have added to the wearing of the stones, your presence has contributed to the path's blessing. You are not separate from the garden, but part of its living ecosystem, both shaped by it and helping to shape it for those who will come after you. The night air carries the sound of the temple bell again, its deep tone reverberating across the garden like a reminder that all of this beauty, all of this wisdom, all of this peace is available in every moment to anyone who has eyes to see and ears to hear. The bell does not call you to any particular action, but simply invites you to be present, to be awake, to be aware of the miracle of existence that surrounds and includes you. As you prepare to continue on the moss and stone path, you carry with you its essential teaching that the spiritual journey is not about reaching some distant destination, but about learning to walk with awareness, with presence, with appreciation for each step along the way. The path beneath your feet is sacred, not because it leads somewhere special, but because it is here now supporting you in this moment of your eternal journey home to yourself. As you rise from the ancient stone seat and continue along the moss and stone path, the night around you seems to deepen into something beyond ordinary darkness. This is the sacred hour when the boundary between day and night dissolves, when the garden reveals its most profound mysteries to those who have journeyed far enough to receive them. The path leads you to the crown of the hill, where a small temple structure emerges from the shadows, like a dream made manifest. It is simple in design, just a wooden frame supporting a traditional curved roof, yet it radiates a presence that speaks of centuries of devotion and contemplation. Hanging within this open structure is a large bronze bell, its surface darkened with age and polished smooth by countless seasons of wind and rain. This is no ordinary bell. As you approach, you sense that it holds within its bronze form the accumulated prayers and meditations of all who have come before you. The bell seems to pulse with a quiet energy, as if it contains not just the capacity to make sound, but the very essence of silence itself. You notice a wooden striker resting beside the bell, worn smooth by countless hands. Yet, as you reach for it, something stops you. In the profound stillness of this moment, you realize that the bell's greatest teaching comes not from its ringing, but from its silence. In the space between sounds, in the pause before the strike, in the infinite potential that exists before manifestation, here lies the deepest wisdom. As you stand before the silent bell, you begin to hear something extraordinary. It is the sound of silence itself, not empty absence, but full presence, not void, but completeness. In this silence, you hear the whisper of wind through leaves, the distant murmur of the stream, the soft breathing of the earth itself. You realize that silence is not the absence of sound, but the background against which all sounds arise and into which they return. The bell teaches its final lesson without being struck, that true peace is not found in the dramatic moments of revelation, but in the quiet spaces between thoughts, between breaths, between heartbeats. It is in these spaces that the eternal dwells, that wisdom whispers its secrets, that the heart finds its home. As your journey through the Zen garden draws to a gentle close, you find yourself transformed not by dramatic change, but by the subtle alchemy of accumulated wisdom. Each step along the moss and stone path has been a meditation, each teaching a gift that now lives within your heart. The wise gardener's patience, the bamboo's flexibility, the pond's stillness, the lantern's guidance, the crane and carp's harmony, the gate's paradox, the pavilion's communion, and the bell's silence. All of these teachings now flow together like streams joining a great river, creating within you a source of peace that will never run dry. As you prepare to return to the world beyond the garden's borders, know that you carry this sanctuary with you always. In moments of stress, remember the pond's stillness. When facing challenges, recall the bamboo's graceful bending. When seeking direction, trust the lantern's gentle light within your own heart. The garden will remain here timeless and welcoming, ready to receive you whenever you need to return. But more importantly, you have discovered that the garden exists within you, a space of peace and wisdom that no external circumstance can disturb. Thank you for walking this path of tranquility with me tonight. If these stories have brought you peace, please share that gift by liking this video and subscribing to Zen Lotus Garden. Your support helps these teachings reach other weary souls seeking rest and wisdom. May your sleep be deep and dreamless. May your rest be complete and restorative. May you wake tomorrow carrying the garden's peace in your heart, ready to meet whatever comes with the wisdom of bamboo, the clarity of still water, and the gentle strength of moss growing patiently between ancient stones. Until we meet again in the garden of dreams, sleep well, dear friend. The silence holds you, the peace surrounds you, and all is well. Gentle music fades as the night embraces you in perfect rest.